Hey there, guys. Welcome to the channel. So I keep finding myself sounding like an absolute broken record because I keep bringing up the past and the same topics over and over and over again in all these videos. But there's a good reason for that. It's a lack of closure. Things just happen. They make a brief appearance in the news cycle, even something like the Maui fires, and then they just disappear. And everyone seems to forget about them. Happened in East Palestine, it's happening in Maui. And personally, man, I just cannot stand it. Taking the Biden administration, for example, instead of addressing the past, they'd rather just highlight some out of context random data that makes themselves look good, look like they're actually doing something. They don't want you to think about how inflation has impacted your finances or how difficult it is for young people to actually afford a home. Probably impossible. They'd rather you focus on some positive stat that has happened since Biden took office. Most of them positive probably aren't even a result of his administration. But anyway, we got to find a way to stop them from changing the narrative and erase, and just gloss over their past and their actual track record, because they absolutely have one. They have a past. They have a track record. And one thing that Biden should never, ever, ever be allowed to escape is his absolute failure in Kabul. The immediate and disgraceful fall of Afghanistan, and the pain, the real pain and real suffering that are still very real and still very relevant. And it will always be relevant. Gold Star families, they've had enough and they're finally speaking out. Thank God. They've got, and they're being allowed to do so. People are covering it. And I want to highlight one particular voice. There are many, unfortunately, but I want to highlight one. And then we'll get into more, more of this stuff. But you've got to see this incredibly heartbreaking clip. But guys, before we do that, thanks so much to everyone that's been subscribing and leaving such great comments. If you haven't already, please help us out with the algorithm, help us grow. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Most importantly, share the channel. And check this out.
2 years has gone by, and where are we? To be frank, we're knee-deep in bullshit, is where we are. Everyone who held a key position in the military still has that position or has been promoted. John Kirby still sits on his perch, which apparently faces the opposite direction from where all the action was. Blinken continues to delay key evidence by ignoring delaying subpoenas. Not a single general slapped down their stars, which should have happened 2 years ago when Biden ignored his reliable intelligence. Not a single person has been held accountable. Our so-called leader can't seem to even utter their names in public, not even once. Mr. Biden has run his entire political campaign for 50 years as the family man. Well, I've got news for you, sir. The curtain has been lifting, and that campaign slogan will never work again. We have seen what's going on in your family, and even worse, we've seen how you've been treating us as Gold Star families. And there couldn't be anything more disgusting and cowardly than the way you have treated us. You are a disgrace to this nation. You have no business having ultimate command over our military, and I regret not saying that to your face when I had the opportunity in Dover. I felt it more important to bite my tongue, but I also had more important things on my mind at that time, like receiving my son's lifeless body stateside. While I stood there on the tarmac, watching you check your watch over and over again, all I wanted to do was shout out, "It's 2:30. But out of respect to the other grieving families, I bit my tongue once again. Well, as you could probably tell by now, I'm done biting my tongue. You, sir, stole their lives, their futures, their dreams, and have ripped apart 13 families. You cannot even man up and admit that. You, sir, gave us all the title Gold Star family. You, sir, discredit honor and integrity."
Wow. So yeah, man, how freaking heavy is that? People, they've had enough. People are completely fed up. Surprised it took so long, but whatever. Anyone who is paying any sort of attention, which sadly not everyone is, but I wish it didn't have to come to something like this, but I'm glad that people are actually reaching their breaking point. Now, how much more can we actually take? What else can we let go unchecked and unanswered? Especially when it comes to accountability. It's insane. The U.S. government and the American military, they can fail so freaking disastrously, resulting in the loss of young lives, destruction of families. And that's just on the American side. Think of the destruction we left for our Afghan allies. Think of what has happened to women, to girls, and the gays since we left. Groups that the left pretends that they actually care about. And things just continue as usual here. It's crazy, man. No, we can't let things just continue as usual. That can't be the way that this goes. It's almost as if the federal reaction is, things happen, deal with it. Just deal with it and leave us alone. Don't ask another question. But that's not an appropriate standard. That is not the way that it works here. We aren't asking for a dramatic, shameful act of some sort of atonement. All we really want, and all that's really upsetting, people about this with this administration is the lack of basic human decency. I mean, that's where we've ended up. That's all. We'd be happy to just see some decency. That's insane. But it's been over 2 years since the fall of Afghanistan. Joe Biden has never apologized. He hasn't held one general accountable. Instead, he blamed Donald Trump and claimed we secured a massive win of historical significance. And if you remember, they touted the withdrawal, the surrender, as if it was amazing, logistically amazing. That's crazy. He hasn't shown any basic respect, that the families of the fallen deserve, and frankly, that their sons and daughters earned by putting themselves in harm's way for a greater vision and for this country. Their legacies, they deserve to be honored, and their lives should actually mean something. But the message from Joe Biden and the Democrats, it's clear, man. Their lives don't mean enough. They were just expendable pawns, and they don't want to talk about it. Biden even couldn't even lift his head during the ceremony. Joe Biden, the family man, that's what we've been sold for decades. He doesn't have the decency to respect the families torn apart by this tragedy, by his tragedy. He doesn't acknowledge them publicly. He doesn't acknowledge them privately. He looks at this like it's just some bad PR issue to be swept under the rug, just like he did in East Palestine, just like he's doing in Maui. And Biden, the caring and compassionate Democrat leader, that's a lie. That person does not exist. He never really ever did exist. I'm with these Gold Star families who spoke out at that hearing. I support them 1,000%. And if Donald Trump had done the same thing, my opinion would be the exact same. They claimed Trump was heartless and selfless and selfish. But in every instance, I think he proved that narrative was wrong. And if we want to talk about selfish, this is selfish.
It's going to be frustrating as a devil for people. They say, why can't I go back? Storm's over. Why can't I go back and look and see if I can find that wedding ring, or why I can find that album? Can't find that thing that I've lost in the house. It's really tough. Really, really tough. I didn't do anything like that, but lightning struck my house. We had to be out of that house for about 7 months while it was repaired because so much damage was done to the house and half the house almost collapsed.
So someone who talks about their kitchen fire and embellishes their personal stories while meeting residents in Maui who literally just lost everything, guys, that's selfish. That's worse than selfish. I don't think there's even a word for that. That's tone deaf, at least. When we lost 19 firefighters in 2013, this moron showed up and kept rambling on about his wife and daughter dying in a car accident. And that's incredibly sad, obviously. But it's not what was causing the thousands of wildland firefighters who were in attendance that day to grieve. It's sad. I would never, ever in a million years have believed you then if you told me that guy would become president. I also never would have thought he would have been a corrupt POS. I really just thought he was just kind of a bigoted old dinosaur, not very smart guy is what I thought. But I was wrong, man. He became president. Anyway, guys, that's just my take. Let me know yours in the comments. And if you haven't already, please help us with the algorithm. Like, comment, subscribe. Most importantly, share the channel. We'll see you in the next one.